I really like art materials that do more than one thing. Arrtx approached me and said, would I like to try their new acrylic markers that come with 3 different nibs? And I thought, oh, actually, yes, I would. My name's Liz Chatterton. I'm a watercolour artist based in Berkshire. Every week I share tips and tricks that I wish I'd known about ages ago. I also like to review art materials and I really enjoy mixed media, so having a good set of acrylic markers is rather lovely. Here are the 72 markers in all their glory, and what lovely colours they are. Join me as I swatch them out on white paper and coloured paper to see how opaque they are. These are the different shape nibs. The ones they come with are 3mm. Then there is a brush nib that varies between 1 and 6mm, and then there's a slightly smaller 1.2mm sort of bullet nib. But in the process of painting, I actually discovered there is a 4th nib. So do watch that bit at the end and I'll show you. I'm rather late to the party, but I've just discovered kindness rocks and the whole idea of painting these and hiding them to hopefully brighten someone's day up. So I thought these would be perfect for testing out whether the markers are good in practice rather than just in theory. Let's look what we get in this box. We've got a swatch card, which is handy, but before I swatch those out, I want to look at these replacement nibs. We've got our lovely 72 colours, all in a good storage box, but here we've got the different nibs. They come with 3mm nibs in, but they send a whole load of brush nibs, so you can swap them out and make them brush pens. I have taken one out. I can't remember which colour. I have a feeling it was this one. I'll check in a moment. And it was really dead easy. They also give you these, which are slightly smaller round nibs. So these are 3mm and the replacement nibs are 1.2mm. So the idea is that rather having to buy lots of different sets, you have a brush pen set for when you want to paint, a finer nib set for all the details, and a middleish nib set here for, I don't know, doing your outlines. You've got one set, change the nibs over and you're good to go. Let's see whether that is practical. There's 6 grams of ink in each of these, which is a pretty big capacity. And if you've not used coloured markers before, these acrylic markers, you need to shake them first, and you can hear that ball bearing going up and down, and it's mixing the ink inside. If you don't shake them, then the ink separates out and you'll either get it watery and colourless or blobby. The nice thing is you have got a clear window across here. You should be able to see how much ink is left. So you've given it a jolly good shake. That's the 3mm nib. What you have to do is pump it up and down, and you will see that the ink starts to fill that nib up. So that wasn't bad actually, because with 72 colours, if they all took 20 pumps, it would be a right pain. If I grab one of the smaller ones, what you're meant to do is pull the nib out. I'm using a piece of kitchen towel just so I don't get utterly messy. And then you'll need to drop that into water so it can be washed out and reused. I've got my clean nib. Oh look, even though I'm trying not to get too messy, I can put my clean nib in there. I'm going to have to go through my pumping again to get that ink flowing. And that's the slightly thinner one. Once again, pull that nib out. You do waste ink if you're changing them all the time, but I do want to see how easy this is and how practical it is. So that is one of the soft brush nib tips. Pop it in. Now I wonder how this is going to work, because usually you don't have to pump brush. You want to actually damage the brush by sort of going up and down. The ink is coming. Maybe I just need to be patient. Maybe I should do that and see. Oh look, I can see it travelling up the brush now. It's our brush nib. And they say that this goes from 1 millimetre to 6 millimetres. So you've got that broad stroke across, or nice fine stroke down. They're also very good for dots. That was our 3, 1.2, and between 1 and 6. Well, it's certainly easy to swap those over. I wonder how much you will actually do that. Don't know. So we've got a pack of 25 nibs, and say you wanted to swap all of them, that wouldn't be enough, but you can buy more of these nibs from Arrtx, and 20 brush nibs are £5.92. I will wash these out properly and then we can reuse them. But actually it's interesting seeing the colour of the water, which shows how pigmented these pens are. Arrtx say that they're non-toxic and that they are fade proof. They've got really good coverage and they can be used on anything from canvas to wood to rock to glass to plastic. Goes on pretty much any surface. This is the swatch sheet they've given us, and this is just a piece of paper. I couldn't find a black piece of paper, but I do like to swatch them on white and a coloured piece so I can really judge the opacity of these pens, you know, what their coverage is like, because obviously everything looks good on white. I won't make you sit through me swatching out because this is going to take ages with the shaking and the pressing and the everything. What I'll do is do all the colouring and then make a few notes if anything surprises me, and we'll look at the end together. The first thing that struck me was just how opaque these inks are. Sure, a couple of the yellows did show the orange through, but yellow is a very light colour and you could always put a second layer on. I was also struck by what lovely colour range there was, with a good range of yellows, blues, reds, greens and sort of more earth tones. I really like that the caps are all numbered so you can put them back in order, which then correlates with your swatching, and the fact that the cap has a little anti-roll device. They've got a little notch just to stop things rolling all over the place, which is good. In the UK, these 72 pens are £69.99. In the US, when I looked it up, they are $49.99, which seems like a very good price. The price across European countries seems to vary from the cheapest was €48.99, and in other countries it was €69.99. So those were the prices on Amazon. I'm hoping that Arrtx may give me a discount code. Can you check in the description, because I won't get that before I actually finish this video. Each pen seemed to take about 15 pumps to get it going. Some got going in 5, some took 20. If so, do pay attention while you're pumping them as opposed to daydreaming, because you can end up with quite a large puddle of ink. Just keep a bit of kitchen towel close at hand to mop the nib if you've got some fairly free-flowing ones. The only colour that I was a bit surprised about was the third metallic. It's a sort of metallic red, really nice, but I'm not sure why it's there. Woo. The proof of the pudding is in the eating, and what I'd like to do is actually use this in a painting now. As always, I seem to be rather late to the party. I'd obviously heard about people painting rocks, and I was like, what's the point of that really? Then I was on a walk a couple of weeks ago and I discovered a very beautiful rock, and on the back of it had a little thing written saying Reading Kindness Rocks. So I looked it up and realised that there are groups of people all over the world who paint little rocks and then leave them in fairly plain sight. They're not exactly hidden for people to find, to bring that little moment of joy to someone's day. So I've started to paint a whole load of pebbles because I'm going to have a stall at our village fete in a couple of weeks' time. And I thought it'd be rather nice to have a basket of pebbles there for people just to be able to help themselves to either keep, gift, hide, or whatever. These all need varnishing, but I thought they would be a great way of testing out these acrylic markers. I just got a bag of pebbles at our local garden centre. Given them a good wash to get all the dust and dirt off, just in warm water. I did read about someone putting them through their dishwasher, which seems way over the top. Then I have painted them with gesso, and gesso is a primer. Now, if you haven't got gesso, don't worry about it, but it just sort of evens the surface out and gives something for the paint to grip to, and especially if we're using sort of lighter colours, we want them to appear bright. Having a bit more of a white surface is going to help us. But on these ones, I have painted them with black gesso. So far, I've done all sorts, from the simplest, just dots, and stripes, and then I did some little monstery faces. Got a penguin, haven't quite finished its beak off. Ladybird, bee. I'm going to choose a bigger rock because it'll be easier to film, and use these pens and see where we get to. I think I need to do about 100, so this is going to keep me busy over the next few weeks. But they're quite therapeutic, and obviously they're very simple to do. I've seen some absolutely stunning ones, but these are not going to be those. Right, I've got my reference colours there as well, just in case I need that. Yeah, I thought I would do wildflower meadows, so I've picked out a few colours. I'm going to do the background first, let that dry, and then build up a few layers. Now I'm going to have to work fast with the blending because these dry very fast. So I've got a wet brush. I'm just going to blend that colour. At the moment, I've just got the 3mm nibs on there. I'm not going to sort of start changing those, but if I need to, I can. And then let's take some of this grass up here. Darker at the bottom. So I'm just blending it with some clean water. Get a nice sort of wishy-washy background. And then once that's dry, I can work on top to neaten up some of the edges, I guess. Okay, that's one little meadow. How should we do this? I think that's a better way. They seem to be very pigmented, which is lovely. I want a softer horizon, so I'll just blend that down. There we go. And this one. Just clean brush. Just trying to think how I'm going to do this. Bring stems and grasses up like this, I think. So I'm just dotting a few flowers. This is the brush nib, so let's make some sort of daisy type flowers here, really using that to our advantage. Yellow middles. Do some sort of grasses and things. Some stems. I'd like to do some sort of little forget-me-not type flowers at the bottom. So I'm going to take out the white nib. I'm just putting it to one side. I do some sort of dandelion type things. It's meant to be sort of some sort of dandelion, whatever. A little highlight on these. I am going to take this nib out as well and put one of those brush nibs in. I'm worried about damaging the nib, so I'm actually sort of, rather than squishing it up and down, I'm just going to pump it by hand. I'm going to pop those two dirty nibs in there so that they don't dry up. These are sort of poppies. And now where's black poppies? You need to have a black centre, don't they? Well, I think that's meadowy enough, isn't it? I'll go ahead and paint the others in a very similar way. Sort of daisy type flowers on this one. There's some leaves. I'll just let that dry and then put a few more flowers down the bottom. Right, this one I'm thinking I'm going to do a bit like foxgloves. which again is really easy to do with the little brush nib. You know, I think that brush nib is my favourite because it's just so versatile. You can do dots, you can do lines, you can do these little shapes, and you can colour big areas as well. While that dries, come back to this one. Do some bigger blue flowers. I am so pleased I swatched everything out because we've got so many colours to choose from. It really helps, even though I moaned about it. There we go. I think that's all I need to do on that one. A few dots. Okay, this is my teal coloured, so I'm going to swap that one over. Just wondering if you use the other end, whether that would actually give you a finer end. Will it still work? I think it does. Not sure it's meant to be. That's finer than that, isn't it? Okay, I've put that nib in upside down. I'm not sure I'm meant to. But our job as artists is always to say, well, what happens if? So I just wondered, if you put it in upside down, whether it still works, and it appears to be. So actually, it looks like we may have 4 widths of nib there. Well, that's a good discovery, isn't it? And we can come back in and do my sort of poppy type things. I do want to overlap some of them. I'm going to stop there. I may fiddle around later, but I think that at least gives us an idea of how they work. All that remains is to write on the back, because I want to refer people to Reading Kindness Rocks, their Facebook group. I've just put that on the back. I guess if you were doing bigger rocks, you could put a little message of keep, gift, hide again. And then I've got some gloss varnish. You could, of course, use a spray varnish if you happen to have it. Because these may get hidden outside, I am going to put a bit of varnish on that will be okay and just protect them against the weather. And it does bring out the colours rather nicely, doesn't it? So I'll put that on the top and the underside. It dries really quickly. If you happen to have a spray varnish, of course you could use that. Make sure you do it outside in a well ventilated area. And we are done. And only about 96 more to do. So what have we learnt? Well, I guess we've learnt that changing the nibs is really easy, that there is a massive choice of colours, so the swatching is really important. They are very opaque and really do go over fairly unappealing backgrounds very well. They spread nicely with water, they seem to dry pretty quickly and layer very nicely. And we've discovered that we've actually got 4 widths of nib going on in there rather than the 3. If you know you're always going to use one particular nib, I think the whole changing of them is a little bit painful, but if it's just on occasions that you need to do that, very, very useful.